Hello and welcome to another episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast by Property Strategy. And I'm Jackie Tomes, and we are having more conversations about how to create freedom through property, and freedom in all its forms, not just the cash flow, but also what it means to have emotional freedom. And that truly is the crux of the matter to what we have to have in order to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labour in property. So this week we're going to be talking about relationships, and particularly from the angle that no one is coming to save you. That sounds really depressing, right? Maybe, but actually that's really a good thing for you and your business. As many of you may know, Dom's had one hell of a year with lots of personal challenges, and he's shared very vulnerably in this conversation about how that's actually been a very good thing, and some of the challenges he's had to work through from that perspective. And through the challenges that Dom has been through, he has come up with 7 key truths that can transform your business and life relationships. So I was feeling a bit down when I had this conversation with Dom, and he really perked up my spirit. So if that maybe describes how you feel today, you're really going to enjoy this one. So let's do it. Oh, hello, Dom.
Hello, Jackie, and hello to the audience listening as well.
I'm very excited to this podcast today. We've just moved this podcast up earlier in the day because I was having a bit of a flat day, and I was like a big bit of Dom in my life right now. So let's. I'm very excited about the topic. So tell me what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about a topic that actually we covered on our retreat in Italy, and that's about relationships. Relationships are basically the source of all problems, right? Yeah, all our problems are problems of relationship, whether it's a problem with a partner or with a family member or a friend or a work colleague or money. Your relationship with money, your relationship with food, your relationship with alcohol. All problems are problems of relationships. So we're going to be talking about relationships and the 7 core truths that everyone needs to know about when it comes to relationships in order to live a happier, more successful and peaceful life.
Oh, I love it. So what spawned this topic, Dom? Like, what made you dive into it? Why are we having this conversation?
Because I got divorced last year. And I wanted to understand relationships because I've always been, I guess, relatively nice guy and liked by a lot of people because I wanted to be liked. And then I did something last year that basically meant the whole world was against me, including family and friends. And so I wanted to, like I do, like Dave does too, right? Whenever something happens, we want to learn about it to understand it better. So that's what spawned it, actually. A great question. That's what spawned it is like, oh, okay, I have almost like the whole world against me right now. So let me understand relationships and how to navigate this. And as a result of the reading and the research, I came up with these core truths that they then shared with our.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, it's a horrible experience to go through. I guess for everyone concerned, like, it's not an easy situation to be in, but it sounds like what life gives us what we need to be able to look at parts of ourselves that we haven't wanted to. So where do you want to begin, Dom?
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that, but yeah, basically the quality of our relationships is rooted in our relationships with ourselves. So it's about us, really. All relationships are a reflection of us. What springs to mind when I say that to you? What do you think of?
Oh, relationships have always been very challenging for me. And like, I feel closer to seeing more of the truth of that than I ever have before, which is, I totally see it is in myself and in my relationship with myself, based on, I think, a decision that was made like very, very early on in life. And then you just think it is almost like who you are. And then everything arranges itself around you in that way to make you reaffirm that perspective that you have on life. But I guess, I have become aware recently in myself that I have this weird internal battle where I kind of like have always been afraid of being alone. Like, abandonment has been like a core wound of mine. Always been afraid of being alone, but then equally very afraid of being people needing me and people wanting stuff from me, like,
Mm,
and so those two things are very very much therefore in conflict, because obviously to have a relationship it's kind of like you need to have that balance of like give and take between you. And so a part of me thinks that you're going to leave me, and the other part of me is scared that you're going to want something from me, and if I can give that to you, but maybe I can't give that to you. And yeah, it's
mm,
that's like there's a whole load of mess in there that makes absolutely no sense and it's really unhelpful, but that's the like, yeah, what I'm seeing playing
yeah.
out for me at the moment, and that makes it, yeah, really hard with relationships.
Right. Thank you for sharing so openly. And I imagine people listening, some people will be able to relate to that. Because in fact, everyone I think should probably be able to relate to that. Because we are social creatures. We're animals, humans. We are social creatures. We need to be with other people. But at the same time, all the problems, all the fear, all the hurt comes from
Mm.
relationships too. So then we kind of want to push it away. And actually, that's part of the second truth, which is that we're always in constant flux when it comes to relationships and our emotions with ourselves. So I wholeheartedly relate. I'm that one of the things I hate the most is being alone,
Mm.
and I would rather have the politics and the difficulty of family, issues than be alone. And we know from studies in science, and I'm sure people have heard it on the radio or wherever they get their information, that you know being alone is worse than smoking 60 a day. For one's health.
Mm.
We really struggle. So we're in constant flux. We have to find a balance between being with people and being alone. Everyone needs time alone and actively should seek it. Because it's a character trait of very successful people, by the way, is time alone with their thoughts to get clarity. But at the same time, we can't get anything done, and we can't really function without other human beings. It's a necessity to be around others too. So yeah, it's an interesting one that I think everyone actually goes through, and so knowing that in itself is actually quite reassuring in a way, isn't
Helps,
it?
yeah, it's like comforting. You're like, it's just normal, like this conflict that we have, like, and that is, it's kind of an acceptance of those different sides of ourselves, the side of ourselves that wants to be connected with others, and the side of ourselves that wants the space and the autonomy and to be alone. And those two things are different ends of the spectrum. Why do all of our
Right.
conversations always come back to like extremes and finding the balance? Is that basically podcast done? Find the balance, guys,
Yes.
over now. But that conflict between those two creates this like, for me, I'm more aware of it, like that internal resistance, and that resistance is actually exhausting. But when you kind
Mm,
of just come to just accept, you know what, yes, things are always going to be challenging, everyone's got their own different version of this going on, and when you just kind of just go, "Oh, this is always going to be a work in progress, you're never going to have that, yeah,
yeah.
it's always going to be in flux, as you say, it's kind
Yeah.
of feels a lot calmer, that just when you just like accept that for just what it is.
Yes. Yes. And therein lies the answer. We can't control how others behave, but we can be accepting and responsible for our own responses. And that ultimately is the key. You can't control other people, but you can choose how you respond. And
Mm.
that's why the outer world is really simply a reflection of our inner world. And if our inner world is peaceful and accepting, then our outer world tends to catch up and be similar, or at least resolve itself a bit quicker, I think. Sometimes people
Mm.
have problems, sometimes they go on for years, others it has a problem, but it's resolved quickly because they accept they can't control the situation, for example, or they accept that that's just the way it is, and they're going to do their best given the situation. Um, yeah, so that's
Interesting. It's
yeah.
making me think of like obviously we have all of these different, our own version of these different wounds that we're kind of carrying around with ourselves, and
Mm,
our different version of these play out in different ways. Like what you were making me think of there is um I think there's some people who we've kind of worked with in various capacities in the past, that people whose things always seem to be going wrong for, like it's like one string of thing wrong after another. And like the version of me, I don't know, let's say 7 years ago, I didn't realize it, but I wanted to be the hero to these people. Like I wanted to help
mm,
to save them. Like I could see
mm,
how their life could not be so chaotic and could be a lot easier for them. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, you just do these things and everything will be better for you. And in reality, it's not as simple as that, because actually it's that person's, I guess in this context, relationship with themselves would have to change for
Right.
that to be able to change. And just because I can logically say follow these steps and these
Yeah.
chaotic things won't happen doesn't mean that that's going to happen. And
Yes.
that's been a very hard thing for me to, I guess, to realize and then accept, I guess, my wound that what feels like I need to save people and be responsible for them. And that feeds in very nicely to people who feel like they want to be saved. And we kind of like
Yes.
somehow get all
Yes.
wrapped up together with our own weird relationships with ourselves, them trying to create chaos so that I can come in and save them, and me trying to save them and not being able to
Yeah.
save them. And it's
Yes.
actually, um, I don't know what I'm trying to get at with the point of this, but that was just what you were making me think of when I said,
Mm.
when you were saying those things, like realizing the subconscious story that's playing out and how we interact with others. That's really our subconscious relationship with ourselves. And
With
for
us,
me,
exactly. Yes.
definitely feeling
Yes.
like there being a subconscious thing of like, if I'm not responsible for others or doing enough for others, I'm not good enough. I won't be wanted. I'm going to be abandoned, alone, and die
Yes.
in a ditch. Subconscious
Yes.
thought
Yes.
process.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's complicated stuff, right?
It is complicated. I mean, we all know the saying that, the reason why a therapist becomes a therapist is because they can't sort out their own problems. But also
Oh.
therein lies the driver, right? The things that we seek were then best placed to help others with. So I think, and yeah, like you wouldn't want someone who isn't an expert in that area to be helping you. Generally speaking, you want an expert, someone who's been through that problem to help you through your version of that problem because they've got the experience. Yeah. So so that's I think that's that's why I love to help others because I find it's through doing my own work on myself that I'm better placed to help others, and that's why I have a passion for it, passion for the learning. And I think similar for you, but I think it's slightly different context, more around growing the
Mm.
business. Mine's more around the psychological area, which
Yes.
actually brings me on to a second point, which is to say we talk about our relationship with ourselves, but actually, what is ourself? We've got our mental, our thinking brain, we've got our emotional body, all the chemicals and reactions that are going on inside of us and the emotions that play out, and thinking and feeling are two different things. Plus, we've got our physical body in terms of, yeah, eating, drinking, exercise, all those things. And then we got our spiritual body, which is a whole other, dimension in itself, which consists of, the etheric body, the celestial body, the astral body, etc. So there's so many aspects to us. We're not just one person, and we're also always in flux. So we're always changing. So yeah, you're right. It is complicated. It's really
Yes.
complicated, and it's never going to be simple. But then if it was, it would be really boring. So maybe we should
That's
just do
very
both of these
true.
things.
Dave and I were talking about that earlier, and just like Dave woke up in a bit of a funk this morning, just like feeling a bit negative about things, and just going. We always go for a walk in the morning and talking about things, and it's just amazing how um yeah, just how you wake up and how you feel in that day, and then you try and somehow think your way through and solve it, and actually need to come back and go, know what, that's just a passing moment of how we're feeling and how we're relating to something at the moment, and to not allow yourself to be dragged into whatever that to thinking too much about it. It's yeah, and it's
Yes.
never going to be, it is really complex, and so therefore just this understanding that it's probably never going to be done. Does it ever get done? Do you get just like to some point where just suddenly you've got to, I don't think you do. I just think it's always different levels of how much you
Yeah.
buy into it and get lost in it, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever done, and the only time I think it's done is when you're dead or when you're fast asleep and your brain has switched off in the capacity that we know it of thinking the whole time. So yeah, I don't think it's ever done, and that's the nature of life, and is constant thoughts, constant feelings, but we don't have to believe our thoughts. And
Mm.
actually, that brings us onto the third truth, which is to say you have to love yourself. You have to accept who you are rather than be beating yourself up the whole time, which so many people are, you know. Just have compassion
Yeah, but
for
you don't even
yourself.
realize you're doing it. Like I
Mm.
definitely haven't realized that I spent my whole life doing it. Like that's just has been my state of being the whole time, is actually
Mm.
subconsciously beating myself up. But I didn't even know I was doing it because I just felt like normal until I
Yes.
started to pierce that over the last few years. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. Like if I'm feeling a bit maybe how I was describing to you, I felt earlier, like a bit despondent, and not necessarily that inspired today. That actually, if I can then stop for a moment and actually be, what, Jackie, you're doing a really good job. Like, I really love you. Like, well done. And actually, it's like, oh, actually, all of
Yes.
this feels a lot better. And actually, I don't have to wait for someone else to say that to me. I can just say it to
Mm.
myself. That is
Yeah.
actually good enough. But I don't know. Is that something that you can relate to as well?
100%. And I think the shift that we've effectively discussed before is meditation, is that time in silence for ourselves to, yeah, observe the thoughts, observe the feelings, but not actually be them. A lot of people are constantly in their heads, in their feelings, and it's just getting that perspective, knowing that thoughts come and go, but the core of who you are is the bit to get right for life to get a bit easier, I think. At the core of your beliefs, those boundaries that you set for yourself and for others, your routines, your rhythms around exercise, nutrition, sleep, all of those things that we know that if we get it right, our body rewards us with more energy and better mental health, and usually, more success, whether it's financial success or just relationship success, easier relationships, because we're more at peace with ourselves. So,
And any
yeah.
tips about how you learn to love yourself?
So, in short, it starts with courage. I guess it goes back to the scale of consciousness, which I mentioned before. But in short, in the face of uncertainty, in the face of fear, in the face of anger or apathy, even, is to just go, you know what? I'm going to be courageous. I'm just going to do what I think is right, which is to say, maybe it's go for a walk in the morning. Give yourself some time to just be in nature, for example, and observe the thoughts, observe the feelings, and be willing to accept them as they are without judgment. If you let go of judgment, then life gets a lot easier. It is what it is, and I'm not going to judge it as being good or bad. It just is. So we become more accepting, more loving towards oneself when we go up this scale of consciousness that and maybe we can put a link below to the old episode. But when you're willing, accepting, and you see things with reason, and you can remind yourself that everything is happening for you, not to you, that things are trying to help you become more enlightened, lighter, then, and rather than heavy, feeling, sluggish and apathetic. We feel lighter. And then if we're feeling lighter, we tend to be happier, and then we're more joyful, and therefore more joyful, then there's more love. So it's kind of a ladder that we need to remind ourselves to sort of climb each day. And if we've got good routines and rhythms and habits to get there, then it's going to become more of who we are. It's going to become part of our personality. And if it's part of our personality and our habits, then actually that creates our destiny.
Mm. And are
Yeah.
we gonna? Well, I don't know what your next point is, but I feel that this links quite well to forgiveness.
Mm,
In terms of like to be able to love yourself, you have to be able to forgive yourself for the stuff where you've messed it up. But to be
yeah.
able to do that, you have to be able to also forgive others for whatever you may have perceived that they have done to you in the past. And actually, by all of us, like that process of going through of just letting go and forgiving everyone, because everyone is going through this. Like we all somehow feel in the moment when we're struggling with stuff that we're the only ones somehow that are struggling, but actually
Mm,
everyone's and their own various degrees of this are going through it. And I think when you start to see everyone as, I'm trying to think what that book was. No one's better than you, no one's worse than you. We're all just equals going through
yes.
life, fumbling through in our various different
Yes.
ways, trying to do our best, messing it up, accidentally hurting other people when we really didn't mean to, when we're just trying to
Yeah.
figure ourselves out. And actually, if you can realize that very few people are really trying to be malicious in this world, and they're just
Yeah.
dealing with their own struggles of their relationship with themselves. And if you forgive them for
Yes.
how
Yes.
that they're going through that, then it makes it easier to forgive yourself for how you're going through that, which then means it's a lot easier to be loving and kind to yourself in the
There
process.
we go. Yeah. You're so right. That is, there's a program. They did lots of studies around meditation and how to get the best results from meditation. and a chap called Dave Asprey, who's a biohacker, he's a super high performance guy. And he created something called the 40 Years of Zen. And the thing that they do on this program for high level CEOs, it's like 80% forgiveness.
Mm.
So you're right. In order to live a happier life, we have to forgive ourselves, other people. And it's a thank you for giving, forgiveness, for giving. You've
Mm.
been given it, and it is a gift, and it's in the words. So yeah, practice forgiveness, see the good in every difficulty, and on that note, always tell the truth. I learned the hard way. I thought I was protecting people by not being entirely truthful, and actually it doesn't help at all. So if anyone's listening, definitely always speak the truth, and because then there's you can do no wrong by telling the truth because it's the truth.
It's so
Obviously, there's
true.
different levels of
Different
truth.
versions of Ruth, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But Dave and I also talk about this in our walk this morning, the idea of being we were talking about someone who we aren't sure is necessarily right for us to be working with, and we were saying, should we be, honest with that person about why that is? And Dave was saying, well, as long as it's done tactfully, I think it's fine to say it. And I was like, but tactfully is in the eye of the beholder, right? Like you can dress up all of your words and think you're being really careful and still really hurt or offend someone. I think I've got some examples in my life of where I thought I was doing a really nice thing for someone and they actually were really offended by the thing that even though it took a lot of energy and thought and time for me to go about doing that. I thought I was doing a nice thing, but actually that was not the way it was perceived. So you're right, it's just about, I guess, being as kind as you possibly can in how you go about doing things. But you're right, just not holding things back and not saying things that would be fair for someone to know.
Yes. I mean, that is a huge topic in and of itself because I know, yeah, members of my family who've really triggered me by saying things that I just didn't think was necessary to say. So
Mm.
so it is. It comes back to balance,
Mm.
doesn't it? A balance of what we say and how we say it. But you know what? Some people are here to shock others. As a manifester from human design, you are here to speak the truth and be a bit more um, bold in how you communicate. And others, less so. But all forms are required because all forms exist. So some people will be more brash and bold and harsh, and others will be softer, and it might not be conveyed in the same way. Um, and I guess it's just part of being human, really. It's like, yeah, you're going to get all sorts. And then I guess you spend. All I would say is yeah, just embrace that discomfort. The more you embrace the discomfort of having difficult and harsh conversations with people, actually it gets easier. One, you get used to it,
Mm.
and two, you kind of get less offended by it, but also notice the trigger. If you are triggered, okay, well, there's a sign that needs to be healed. So actually, what do you need to sit with there? What's the pain or the feeling you need to allow to escape when you get triggered by that person saying that thing to you?
And it's just being able to notice that as close to in that moment as possible. Something really triggered me a couple of weeks
Mm,
ago, and I got really angry about it at the moment, like the angriest I've been at anything in a very long time. And I just got so sucked into that anger, and I just couldn't see anything but that anger. But actually, then after a couple of days had passed, and I could then go and look back at the situation, and it was
mm,
just a huge. I was realizing I was looking at. Um, I realized I was facing a form of failure in myself and what was going on with the situation. That was
mhm,
really painful for me
mhm,
to think failure is like a big. Who even knows what failure is anyway? Still like I think there's so many different layers to it. Like failure, I realized I felt like I was failing at something. And actually,
mhm,
that frustration that I felt like I was failing at something that was totally out of my control to do anything about. And it just came out as anger. But actually, it was just a lot of pain and hurt that I just needed to
Mm.
like sit with. And once I did, I could see with more clarity. I think I've still got more clarity to get on the situation, but it's yeah, you've just got to try and notice those moments when you're triggered and not buy so much into the situation that you lose yourself.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. Because it is quite easy sometimes to get maybe really angry and blow up, and that actually that negativity is never the optimum way of dealing with any situation,
No.
as the saying goes. So if you can, and this leads actually us on to the fifth truth, which is to say you've got to be your best even after the honeymoon. That's the kind of the phrase I'm using. But so you've got to show up and be your best even after 10 years, 5 years, 15 years with your partner or at work. We have to show up and put in the effort. And putting in the effort means, like you just said, actually spotting yourself, potentially reacting rather than being proactive and balanced
Mm.
about the situation. So that's key is to actually catch yourself in the moment of being triggered or being angry, or feeling apathetic, and just allow the emotional wave to pass before responding. And that's why
Mm.
having compassion for yourself is critical to. And I know this now. Whenever I get, really triggered by something that's going on in my life at the moment, I let all the thoughts, whiz around in my head, and I know that it's just a process now that the kind of the brain has to go through. So I go for walks and I meditate and I do breath work, and then I know it's going to pass, but I also know that the brain kind of needs to do that thinking and that dwelling and that mulling before I come out the other side and go, okay, I've got a bit more clarity now, and this is what I'm going to do about it, rather than
Mm.
reacting, which is kind of the easy thing to do, which is why we have to recognize that and show up and be our best on a regular basis.
It's a really nice way to put it. So be your best even after the honeymoon, and basically after the initial excitement of having the relationship is gone. And I think
Yes.
there's I don't know what time frame that you would generally put on that honeymoon ending, but I'm going to say
Mm,
maybe like 18 months is probably quite a good time frame to put on that. And I would say the initial excitement of that has kind of dwindled. And I think it's interesting to see, just kind of reflecting on some how some potentially some clients watching how they
yeah.
initially
Yeah.
kind of communicate and then how that kind of changes as you kind of become accustomed to each other. And I think quite often that is probably similar to what I was, you see a lot of anger come out of people, I think, as they can get comfortable. Like you don't
Yeah.
stop and think and communicate with kindness in the same way once you're like in comfortably with someone, just like the natural you
Yeah.
just kind of comes out. So it's
Yeah.
again just being able to take the space to process things before you just fling stuff out. It's probably the main thing that I would notice from that. It's just you've got to
Mhm.
like don't you're right, wait for the emotional wave to pass before you then go and communicate with someone and just see what
Yes.
how you can do that from a calmer kind of place.
Yes. Yes. So when it comes to the time frame, obviously it depends on the relationship. So if it's a romantic relationship, typically, as you've just alluded to, it's 18 months to 2 years is when the oxytocin, which is the sort of the love hormone, subsides a bit, and then you're kind of best friends, and but also you can obviously maintain the intimacy with lots of equality, love. So and time together and all those sorts of things. Um, that's on the relationships, romantic relationship side. But yeah, as you say, with business relationships, with new job relationships, yeah, I mean, some new jobs are sort of a 6 month honeymoon period, like I love this, and then it's actually kind of getting into the swing of it now. It's boring, and 7 years seems to be a particular cycle for business as well. A lot of people they join a company, they do 7 years, and they get bored and they leave. That's getting shorter, I think. A lot of people it's more like 2 years these days. So it obviously depends on the relationship as to the time frame. Um, but but yeah, I've given you a few examples there. But particularly when it comes to new relationships, friends, business, yeah, things tend to settle or change after 18 months, 2 years, which is similar to the romantic relationship side of things. Yeah, nice. So, truth number six is no one's coming to save you. Personal
Not even
responsibility.
Jackie.
There we go. Yes, sorry.
No. Sorry, Dom. Finish your sentence.
No, it's funny. I mean, it's apt because it's like, well, yeah, no, some people will come and save me, but actually, it's like, well, if you've learned or been through therapy, actually, you've got to want to do the therapy yourself. People will
Yeah.
help you, but actually, you've got to take personal responsibility. You have to be the one empowering yourself to go and get the necessary help and support, but they're not going to do it for you. I mean, you and I both know from clients that we work with, some people are very demanding, and they want us to do, a lot, everything. It's sort of consultancy. It's like, actually, can you do it for me? It's like, no, I'm not going to do it for you. I want to empower
Mm.
you to do it for yourself, and that's why that truth is no one's coming to save you. Um,
Mm.
if you're waiting for rescue in whatever situation you're in, you're disempowering yourself and you're going to stay stuck. The only way out of your situation is for you to take the right action from a
I
position
would
of power.
therefore also say you're not there to rescue anyone because I think it's almost like both sides of that I think are important because I can't relate to waiting for someone coming to rescue me like that. I
Mm.
don't. But therefore, I'm more on the extreme side of going, I am the rescuer. I am here to save everyone. Or at least I
Yeah.
used to think that. And therefore, that's also you disempower. You support people disempowering themselves when you put yourself in that position. You almost like this hierarchy of relationships that is really unhelpful to forming good connections where we
Mm.
meet eye to eye. As soon as you put yourself in the position of wanting to be saved, you sort of put yourself in a lower hierarchical position, and as the saver, you are in to
Yes.
the more
Yes.
higher hierarchical position. Well, I'm not saying that right, but
Yeah.
that actually we're not here to be rescued, and we're not here to rescue. We are here to
Yes.
just like support and respect and be kind to each other, going through our own process of taking responsibility for ourselves.
There we go. There we go. Exactly. Because if you give someone too much support, you make them weak. If you give someone too
Mm.
much challenge, you make them weak. It's finding the balance of challenge and support that helps to empower them to, to do things themselves and grow and learn. And yeah, we as human beings are here to share our knowledge, our energy, our service to others, um, and that's essential to do it effectively in a balanced way. Yeah, if you want to see people get sick, yeah, either support them too much or challenge them too much, and they will get ill because the body speaks the mind.
And also,
So
you end up challenging yourself. I think for me, in the rescuer position that I have occupied too much in the past, you give too much of yourself than you are able to give, and then you make yourself sick through that method anyway.
yes, ooh, yes, yes, yeah, exactly. People making themselves ill, trying to help and save others. Yeah, yeah. And it's to, especially if we're pleasers, which I think a lot of people that we work with and seem to attract and work with is that we want to help others as much as possible, but sometimes it's to our own detriment. So setting very clear boundaries about how much we help. Doctors, often they burn out because they're doing too much. They're helping others too much, and some of the sick people are wanting to be rescued. So that's a very common example that people can relate to. So that leads me on to a very different truth number 7, which is to say, you've got to make peace with your parents. It was the restrained chuckle. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I guess what a lot of again, it's just like there's so many facets to all of it in your relationship with your parents, and all of you've got all these different versions of yourself, and they've got all these different versions of
Mm,
themselves, and this whole confusing hierarchy thing. Like it is complicated, and figuring out what is their stuff versus what is my stuff, and like sorting through all of that. Like, where is it making peace with myself versus making peace with them? Like, yeah, I can see totally that is.
it's a cool one, isn't it? Because obviously the first relationships we had were with our parents, and so most of the original problems and core traumas that we all have come about through our relationship with our parents. So in order to have successful relationships going forward, it is, yeah, I think vitally important that we are at peace with them, whether they're dead or alive. It's, having compassion that they did the best they could with the knowledge they had at the time, and um, yeah, it's an interesting one because I think I have quite a good relationship with my parents, so I don't struggle on that front, but I know other people do, and those that do, I see it manifest in other forms, usually in their business. Because the thing about a business is that a lot of people try and be successful in business, but their personal life is really struggling. And actually, the personal life is part of the business in a way. So if you get your personal life right, then chances are business happens to be easier. Effectively, you have more success because you have that grounded foundation in place with yourself, your relationships with yourself. So, yeah, if you want a better business, look at your relationships with yourself and also with your parents. Get those right, and you'll see shifts in your business as well, which is something that people might not be aware of, but I've seen time and time again. Um, yeah, they seem not related, but they absolutely are.
The way that I kind of visually see it is like we are the center of the relationship with ourselves. Like our relationship with others starts with the relationship with ourselves, and the
Mm,
parents are the first step out from that. Maybe then other family members, close friends, business colleagues. Like it just kind of ripples out like all of these people that we are connected to. And from my own personal experience of this, I feel like the kind of like making peace with relationships and forgiveness, it's almost like it started from the outside and worked its way in, like me forgiving various things that have happened in my life.
mm,
They're like more kind of distant connections and not, just further away than parents are, have kind
mhm.
of come first in kind of being able to kind of process it and work through it and let go of it. And those moving through that has actually shifted a lot of my relationships in my life, and some very important friendships fell away for me over the
Yeah,
sort of the last 7 8 years, something like that, as part of
yeah,
that piece of work being done. And I guess I feel more and more aware of where I need to make peace with stuff to do with my parents,
yeah.
almost because it's kind of just getting closer and towards myself in order to get to
Mm,
like the next layer that I need to deal with my relationship with myself. It is dealing with that part of it there, which has nothing to do with them. It's nothing to do really with what they did at all. It's all to do with the
mm.
subconscious reactions that you end up having to it. But yeah,
Yes.
I guess that was what my knowing chuckle was about. It's like, yes, I know that's kind of my processing for myself and just
Mm,
allowing
mhm.
those, because it's hard with your parents, right? Like you're with them from the very beginning, and so much stuff uh you grow and change so much, and you don't know how to, we don't
Mhm.
get taught how to evolve relationships and what we need to really do about it. So you kind of
Yeah.
change so much through your life, and how that relationship then works with your parents. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's hard to be able to work through. So I guess as you're saying like that, just like
Yes.
compassion and forgiveness for yourself and for
Yes.
them as well is all just part of that process.
Yeah, exactly. Because they've influenced your self-talk, your inner critic. It has come about initially from your parents, and also how you emotionally regulate has been learnt effectively, often from your parents too. If they fly off the handle really quickly, then that's something you learn to do, for example. Um, and if we have resentment towards our parents, which sometimes we do for various things, then there's an energetic entanglement there, which means that it's taking up, yeah, energy, which
Mm.
actually could be better focused elsewhere if we learn compassion for ourselves and for them, to let it go, and be able to then focus our energy wholeheartedly on the service or the business that we're trying to grow. So that's
Mm.
that's why parents are. It's important to yeah, let go of resentment and find peace with. It's mostly forgiving yourself
Yeah.
about your feelings towards them, because yeah, you can't change them. They might you might be at peace with yourself, but they could still be an asshole. It could be
Mm.
like, but you're just okay and you've forgiven yourself with with your thinking and feeling about them. That's the only thing you really can do, because you can't change them. So that's a core important one to get right. So
So
there
I
we
think
go.
you're right then. Let's bring it back around then to the business, because I think you touched on this really nicely just there. So like all of these things that we're talking about here, we're talking because ultimately these relationships ultimately affect how easy things are for you to make progress in your business. And if you feel like you're butting up against something, the same problem over and over again, this is well, normally I would say actually the stuff that's actually going on underneath that needs to be looked at in order to get the business to move past it. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny because when I work with, I think you and I both, when we work with clients, there's an assumption that success is making more money. But actually, for me, a greater success is their own internal inner peace. If they've got better relationships as a result, if they've got more happiness and joy in the work that they're doing, if they've got more time for their health and well-being, those are all actually far bigger wins than just making more money. Money's everywhere. It's not so yeah, that's actually the what I do, business mentoring for is to help people become more self-aware, more empowered, so that they can live a happier, healthier, more purposeful life that brings them more joy, and as a result brings more joy to the people around them, their family, their friends.
And which normally in turn does bring them more outward displays
As
of
well.
success.
Yes, with physical or financial gain. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So there we
Oh,
go.
that's
Those are the
really
seven cores. So
nice.
just to run through them, it's your outside world is a reflection of your inner world, which is to say, start with you, your relationship with yourself. Know that you're not one thing. You've got your emotional, physical, and mental, spiritual body, and your mind and your body is always in flux. It's always fluctuating, so it's never done, as we discussed. You've got to love yourself. You've got to speak the truth. You've got to be your best. No one's coming to save you, and make peace with your parents. Those are the seven core truths. I think if you get those seven right, then life definitely gets easier. And as a result of your life and your choices, so your life gets easier, your choices get better. As a result of better choices, you live a better life. So yes, there we go.
And I think it's I think it's amazing. Thank you for sharing all those, Dom. This is like real, like raw in the moment, like
Mm.
experiences for you that have come from over the last 12 months. So thank you for sharing and sharing all of that so openly, because I think you're just such a great embodiment of doing these things. Like you can see the challenges that, you're going through dealing with this part of your life at the moment. And it's just amazing to see how you truly are processing that so well in the moment and living all of these things. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you and your ability to share that with everyone who's listening.
Thank you, Jackie. That's very kind of you. It's certainly not always easy. Knowing is much easier than doing, and being. So I might have the intellectual knowledge about it, but actually living it is definitely at least 10 times harder. So it's all very well what we know, but actually it's who we're being and what we're doing that kind of dictates or proves who we are. So something to be aware of. Yeah, watch what people do,
Nicely.
believe their actions rather than their words.
Final thought then for people to take away with them.
Final thought is basically relationships are uh, it's self psychology. If you get your relationship with yourself right, everything else is easier. How about you?
Accept that it's never done and enjoy the process of going through all of this. Because I think this delusional place that we think is somehow waiting for us on the other side of all of this being done, I don't think it's there. This is life. This is the journey that we're going through, and just accepting these things as they are now, as the like what we're meant to work through for our best overall good, and finding the joy even through the difficulty and even through the stuff that we don't want to do is really what it's all about. So find the fun, even if it's not easy. Another week, another episode. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation. If you are enjoying the show, we would really appreciate it if you could just hop onto whatever platform you're listening on and just give us a quick review, give us a quick star rating. We'd really appreciate it. This time next week, you'll be back with myself and Dave, and we're going to be talking about how your vibe affects your tribe, and how you can inspire everyone that you work with to perform at their best. I had a lot of fun talking about this with Dave. This is really like a window into us driving around in our motorhome, having a chat, up the front. So we'll see you same time next week with another fantastic episode. And until that time, have a fantastic week.